Wonderful. Okay, so to everybody watching on the live stream, we really appreciate you being here. I've been pinged a lot offline. Hey, can't make it tonight, but I am going to catch you at 6:30. I am going to tune in. So thank you all. And to my son, Grayson, hey, I love you. He's supposed to be watching. I hope his mom has him in front of a computer or at least a cell phone. So he's 2.5, 3, and safe to say we're somewhat attached, and I've grown fond of the little guy, so I'm really happy that he has a chance to see his dad. Okay, so again, as I was saying before the live stream started, thank you all for being here. We really, truly appreciate it. How many people have been to All Things Open before? A good number of you. How many people are here for the first time? Still a good number. I would say the minority of the attendees, people in attendance tonight, have never gone to an All Things Open. So it's great to have you. If this is your first time, kind of your first touch or your first exposure to us, it's really, really great to have you. I will personally say thank you before we leave here, probably 5, maybe 10 more times. I would encourage you to find me personally and let's talk before you leave. It's really great to have you here, and we're happy you're sort of part of the community. You're now honestly kind of part of the family, whether you like it or not. So we hope that you do attend the conference and get to know us a little bit better moving forward. So I'm going to start tonight with a presentation, very, very quick, letting you know some changes that are coming up for All Things Open, for the website, things you've been used to seeing for the last 8 years now. That's really how long we've been doing this. So with that, let's get started. And again, I will move quickly. I do want to get to the interviews. And I especially want to get to Andy Hunt because we really appreciate him being here. What we want to do tonight is just kind of give you an overview, let you know what's coming this year. We've got some new things planned. We hope that you'll check out some new platforms and you'll actually go through and review and engage with some of the new things that we have going. So with all that said, the takeaways, this take maybe 5 or 10 minutes. We do kind of just want to reiterate what we do. Most of you already know what we do, but also let you know who we are and just reemphasize why we do what we do. We think it's important. We think it bears repeating. And once you're fortunate enough to achieve a small community or any sort of platform at all, the question becomes, what are you going to do with it? So we're honestly trying to leverage it for good and trying to influence as many people in a good way as we possibly can. So, and I think explaining the why again and reiterating and repeating that goes a long way in doing that. So I am going to take just a minute to do that again. We're going to talk about some new platforms and new projects that we're working on and we're about to release, if you will, and then also how you can get involved as well, because that's really important. It's not just enough to learn about us or receive an email or see a tweet, but we want you to actually engage and take part and participate. That's extremely important. So the what? What do we do? You're here, so you know what we do. We host events, and we've hosted technology events for a long period of time. We're now hosting a few new platforms, and we'll host a number of platforms moving forward. So not only can you engage with us in person at live events, but you're soon going to be able to engage with us online in other ways as well. We've been doing this since 2008 under the name All Things Open. I've been doing this for probably 5 years prior to that. We've done it under a variety of names. We've hosted other events. It's all been open source, open tech, and the open web. Everything we do is focused on that space. We think that it's a gateway to opportunity. If you look around, it's where all the innovation, the creativity in the tech space is really coming from. We think wisdom of the crowds works, the collaborative model works, and to us it's extremely exciting, so that's why we happen to focus on that particular area. There are other reasons too, which I'll touch on in just a minute. We focus on technology, frameworks, programming languages. That's great. I love it. You like it. Most of you here, that's actually why you're here. But we also focus on processes. We happen to think it's extremely important that in addition to the technology, processes are really in some cases just as important, and maybe even in other instances even more important. So we focus on processes as well, and I'll describe what I'm talking about in just a second. And we also focus on established and also emerging technologies as well. So if you come to our events, you're going to get some information and some content about things that you already know about that have been around a while, but we're also going to hit on some newer things on the horizon. We feel like it's our responsibility to let you know sort of what's coming and also introduce you to some new speakers as well. Some of our speakers are established veterans, but honestly, a lot of them are people that are really doing something creative and new, and they're newer on the scene. Maybe they've only been in the industry for a year or two, 5 years, 8 years, et cetera, but we want to introduce them to you. We want them to be the superstars of tomorrow. We want them to be the keynote speakers 5 years from now. And if we can play some small role in that process, that makes us feel really, really good. So why do we do what we do? I don't want to get too cliche-ish here. And those of you that have heard me say this before, you know where I'm going with this already. But really there is kind of a rhyme and a reason. There's an approach. There's a reason why we do what we do and the way that we do it. There's still no substitute for face-to-face. As remote communication has become easier, it's become more convenient. We still think, if anything, that has increased or heightened the importance of face-to-face communication. There simply is no substitute for getting to know someone in person. I can tell you that I always encourage anyone that asks me, yes, certainly a cold introductory email is fine, or someone making an introduction on your behalf via email or via a digital platform is great. But do whatever you can do to meet that person in person, face-to-face. Go to a conference, find out where they're speaking, ask for a meeting, ask for coffee. There's just no substitute, and I can't overemphasize that. In person and at conferences, it's where decisions and deals are made. Things get done in person. Things get done in events. That's what's really going on in many cases, whether kind of on the surface, ostensibly speaking, you realize it or not. Introductions are made, new technologies introduced, and it's discussed, and it's talked about, et cetera. And then this is where education happens as well. So we're big believers in conferences and events and meetups just like this, and in-person events, because that's where things happen. We view live events as gateways. Actually, gateways are, really the way that it's phrased behind me here on the screen is we view it as a seat at the table. I was advised very, very early on by people very close to me, told me this, and at the time they told me I had no idea what they were talking about, but they told me, Todd, either you're at the table or you're on the menu. How many people have been told that? Okay. For all of you that raised your hands, the person that told you that really cared about you. They were telling you that to tell you the way the world works. You're either at the table or you're generally on the menu. It doesn't mean people are out to devour you or to destroy you. That's not what I'm saying. All it means is, at a very high level, is that if you're not at the table, you're not engaging in conversations, involved in decisions, involved in a lot of the new tech and a lot of the new groups and organizations that are formed, you're then going to be very reactive. You're going to be responding to things that people do. Not a good position to be in my opinion, and in our opinion collectively. So what we believe, look folks, tech, you're here for a reason. Technology's importance and influence is only going to grow. It's amazing the changes that I've seen over the last 20 years since I've been in the industry. Everything in society, literally everything is directly impacted by tech, dependent upon tech, and moving forward, that's only going to be the case more and more and more. It behooves you to be engaged and to actually take part and to participate in some way. With that comes great promise. I think technology can make society better, for sure. But I believe, and we believe collectively, that with it also comes great risk. That is the topic for an entire talk. What is the risk of technology becoming more influential in society in general? I think there are a lot of risks. And I think those are very real. So you need to be aware of that as well. But we do need to get everyone involved. If technology is impacting everyone, and if everyone's consuming technology, we want everyone to be aware of it, to be involved in it, to participate, and again, to have that seat at the table. We think it's vital. So access really does matter. It segues nicely into access. We really, truly try to make everything we do accessible. We want you to be able to attend our events. We always find a way. For those of you watching or for those of you here, if you ever want to attend one of our events and you cannot make it happen for whatever reason, financially or otherwise, please let us know. We'll work with you to make arrangements to make sure you get access to what we do. We think it's extremely important that you're at the table and you're participating. Inclusion matters. Once someone has overcome a barrier to entry, then making people feel welcome, it matters. You're never going to get the best from someone. You're never going to get their great ideas if they don't feel welcome. We honestly try to make that the case at everything that we do. We always have from the very beginning. Not always done a perfect job or the best job, but we've done the best job that we can, and we'd like to think that we're getting better. Inclusion really matters, and it's extremely, extremely important. And finally, kindness and respect matter. If I could show you, in past talks, I always end with pictures from the house in which I was raised, and my mom doesn't even know I do this, but they're images when I go back to my parents' house to this day. My mom has signs around our house as a reminder that kindness and respect matters. And there are varieties, maybe 3 or 4 of them, but it's seemingly around every bend you see one. And I have really come to appreciate that. When I was very, very young, I was like, golly, okay, tell me again, again, are you kidding me? However, now, 20 years, 30 years down the road, I'm extremely thankful for that. It matters, folks. You all know that, I know, but it does bear repeating. In result of providing some access and focusing on inclusion and really focusing on open source, which we view as a gateway, and live events and getting you in, we think is a really better technology. The more people that are involved and contribute and collaborate and participate, I believe technology, the quality of technology increases and enhanced. We all benefit from better technology. You get more people participating, which is extremely important to us. Again, it bears repeating. And then a better society in general. So we think society's better off when people feel welcome, they feel included, and everybody's participating and engaged. I don't think that's always been the case. I think we're getting better, and I think we're going to continue to get better as well. So I look forward to doing everything we can in a very small way to make that happen. We are a certified B Corp, for those of you that did not know that. We achieved that certification in 2018, almost 2 years ago. It took a long time to achieve the certification. It took us about a year to a year and a half of effort. We did not know and were not aware of some of the data that would be required on the front end that we would have to present and have verified in order to achieve the certification. So because we weren't collecting the right data to begin with, we had to go back through another cycle of events and another year of what we do and gather the data and then present it for verification, et cetera. If anyone here wants to learn more about becoming a certified B Corp, if you would find me, I'd be happy to give you some information, make some connections for you. There's actually a local B Corp organization, Meetup, I believe, that meets here in the Triangle, so maybe we can make a connection for you as well. It's a good thing. All it says is that you believe that there's maybe a better way of doing business than simply focusing on the bottom line. Nothing wrong with focusing on the bottom line. Everyone has to eat. Everyone has bills to pay. That's part of life. That's normal. However, there is a better way, and by focusing on maybe a few other things as well as you're attempting to make a living and deliver value that someone is willing to exchange currency for. With all that said, all things open, let's get to a few of the changes. So for the last 7 to 8 years, everybody that has attended the conference, I know you visited the website, because you had to register, and you had to be registered before you came on site and visited with us every October. So the website is changing. I do want to let you know that. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I would encourage you to do that. The last 7 to 8 years, it's only focused on the conference. It's only been the conference. You've come there maybe August, September, June, November, October, et cetera, leading up to the event to register to get more information. From this point forward, it's going to include more information. It's going to change just a little bit. And I'm going to walk over here. I'm going to show you how. You're already looking at a screenshot, but so give me just a minute. So this is just what the new site will look like. This will take on many, many different iterations. If you know anything about us, we like to change things up. Everything from floating astros to multiple variations of floating astros and animations. We like to have fun. I think technology should be fun. And when you come to the website, you should have a good time, and it should pique your interest, and you should be thinking about how do they do that, or what technology was used, or how does Astro float in 3 different variations on a mobile device. We get a lot of questions about stuff like that. So this site now becomes really more of a landing page. It becomes more of an all things open universe, sort of letting people know everything that we do. For so long, we've been doing a lot of other stuff, other events and other things. But if you go to the website up to this point, you would only think of us or know us as a conference organization putting on 1 conference a year. Nothing wrong with that. We're grateful that you know us at all. But moving forward, we would like to let people know that are new to us and sort of coming to us for the first time that we, in fact, do much more than that. So that's what this site will become. So again, not a huge deal, but it does represent a change. So we wanted to let people know that from this point on, when you go to the site, you're not only going to learn about All Things Open, the conference, but you're going to learn more about what we do and some of the other platforms and some of the other things that we're launching. So just be aware. You can see the Spacewalk event here. We like the space theme. You'll always see us do that. I was kind of obsessed with space when I was little, and my son, 3 years old, obsessed with the moon and the planets. He's following in my footsteps. I liked science fiction. I liked space. So that has certainly impacted our decisions in which direction we go with themes and design and animation, et cetera. So it'll always be kind of a space. The reason we do that is exploration, new horizons, always looking at what's coming and thinking about possibilities, et cetera. So that's how that fits. That's why you've always seen kind of a space theme with what we've done. So I'll show you this really, really quickly, and then we will move very, very fast. So even on this new website, and again, this is in progress. We're working on this as we speak. Our team is for sure. But these are 3D animations. You can put your cursor over them. You can interact with them. And we use a lot of open source technology on this. We use 3JS. We use GreenSock animation platform. We use Vue for some of the scaffolding, et cetera. So we use a lot of open source tech on this stuff. And in the coming days, in the coming weeks, we'll release a lot of the code. And we'll also release some blog posts, and we'll tell you exactly how we did it. And then we'll engage with you if you're interested as to how you might be able to do some of this yourself as well. So we think it's kind of neat. Again, we like to keep it fun and interactive, and I don't know, playful is an overused term. But again, technology should be fun. It shouldn't be all, frowns and rainy days. So anyway, you can kind of see a lot of what we do. And again, you can come to the site and interact. This all will change. And in the future, you can get news. We'll begin to release news about what we're doing through All Things Open, again, which is now more of a universe-type site, encompassing everything that we do. And you can see some of the things that we've already posted are really a blog post describing what we're doing in person here tonight, but also what we do, 7 steps that we take try to ensure diversity and inclusion at our events. Just 7 things, but we'll begin to go into more depth about what we do. A lot of people ask us, and I'll be the first to admit, up to this point, it hasn't been intentionally secretive or anything like that, but it's just we've been so busy, we have such a small team, we haven't released a lot of this stuff. So we're going to begin talking about more of this stuff publicly moving forward. So that is the site and where you can sort of find that. So that's, again, the new site moving forward. So please be aware of that. And if you don't mind, please spread the word, because someone coming to the site for the first time expecting only to hear about the conference and things like that, they are going to be in for a bit of a surprise. So you saw, again, All Things Open as well. It becomes more of a universe thing. All Things Open 2020, the conference itself. It is scheduled already for October the 18th and the 20th through the 20th. By all means, please save the date. Okay, we'd love to have you. Last year, we had just under 5,000 people. 200 plus presentations over 2.5 days, and it'll maintain and keep, for the most part, the same format this year, but we do look forward to having you October the 18th through the 20th. You can see how the attendance at the event has grown. We tried to chart this out, and we started the event in 2013, and we hope to keep that upward trajectory moving forward and continuing. We'd like to at least host 5,000 people this year, and we hope all of you that have been at the event, we really hope that you've enjoyed it and had a good time, and by all means, please help us spread the word. Again, the Diversity and Inclusion event, we've done that now. This will be our 3rd year. We're going to do it again on the 18th on Sunday. Last year, we had almost 600 people there from all over the world. If you haven't attended that, please check that out. It is a great event. We feel like starting the conference sort of off on that foot sets a tone. It establishes the narrative, if you will, that inclusion and diversity matter, making people feel welcome. It actually matters, so much so that we're willing to sort of put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, and do a separate event, which is an unbelievable event. It's been really, really good. And all of you that have attended, I hope you've had a good time. If you have any input on how we can improve the event, by all means, please let us know. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to make it better. But if you're planning to attend, please try to make that event on Sunday. CFP, if you're here and you're a speaker, or if you're watching, or if you're hearing us within the sound of my voice, we'd love to have you submit a talk. In 2019, we received about 1,000 talks, about 1,000 responses to the CFP. We featured 250 speakers. So, it's not it's not. Well, we turned down more talks than we accepted, obviously, but we try to change it up every year, and we're always looking for a variety of talks. So please, whatever you do, don't think, well, I've only been in the industry 3 years, what do I have to offer? Please don't think that at all. We feature introductory level talks all the time, and sometimes those are the best talks that we feature, and then garner the most positive feedback. So please don't feel that way at all, don't hesitate to submit a talk. Something new this year, how many people here have heard of the Community Leadership Summit? CLS for short. This is an event that John O. Bacon started. John O. emceed the event last year, CLS. It's always been on the West Coast. For the first time ever in 2020, it's going to be on the East Coast, and it's going to precede All Things Open on Saturday and Sunday. It's about open source community, 2 days of open source community. It's been in Portland, it's been in Austin, but this year, 2020, for the first time ever, it's going to be on the East Coast in Raleigh, preceding our event. So more information coming soon about that. I think you'll really enjoy it, and it really is one of the best events in technology, period, and certainly in open source for sure. Open Source 101. How many people have been to an Open Source 101 or have heard about it? Okay, good. We do this, and you know what? So let me do this. I'm going to show you the website. That is live. That's actually what the website looks like. And again, we're actually recording this, so this is good. I would encourage you to go to the Open Source 101 website. We do these in the spring. They're an on-ramp into open source. ATO has been, I don't know, defined by some as a more advanced level event, which we know is not always the case. We have a 101 track, and we feature a lot of introductory level talks, but I could see how people would think that. About 4 years ago, we decided we really wanted to provide a day of on-ramp education in open source. If you've never contributed or you've never consumed, if you don't know much about licensing, or if you don't know much about open source business models, as an example, we try to take this day to educate you more about that, let you know, really featuring world-class speakers to sort of on-ramp you into the open source space. A lot of people think everybody knows that. Everybody knows how to pull down code and integrate it into an existing code base and attach a license or understand licensing at a minimum enough level that you're not going to get yourself in trouble or incur liability. I can tell you that is not the case. We learn new stuff every day. We do not know, there is so much we don't know, and I know it's the case for the general public as well. So by all means, please think about attending. The closest one to the RTP is in Columbia on March the 3rd, Columbia, South Carolina. And for the first time ever, we'll do Austin, Texas as well. So we'll be in Columbia and Austin this spring. If you know anybody in Austin or in Texas, please tell them about it. And let them know about it. And then if you're here in the Triangle and you want to take a 3-hour drive, by all means, please do that. But you can see Columbia, you can see Austin here. Great companies, great organizations that are going to be featured for those one-day events. We make them accessible. The cost, $49, as high as $99. You'll never break $100 going to an Open Source 101. We make scholarships available. We want to make it accessible to you. So please, and again, some of the best companies, best speakers in the world are always featured, so the content quality is great. A lot of newer people in the industry are featured, people doing really interesting things, so the content quality we feel like is quite high. Let's do this. Let's go, again, moving quickly again. You're at the Open Source RTP Meetup. We'll continue to do this meetup. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. We've already scheduled February. Please visit us February. We'll be back at IBM. Which IBM, if Sadev is here and his team, Brad Topol, you all do a great job. Thank you, Sadev. Thank you for hosting us. That's where we, quote unquote, normally have this meetup. Tonight's a special night, so we want to do something at the Carolina Theater. But IBM, great partners. In addition to Mattermost and Avon, 2 of our other sponsors, they really, together and collectively, make all of this possible. But by all means, please try to attend meetups moving forward as well. We would love to have you. The Open Source South Carolina, we also host a meetup, more than 1,000 people. If you know anybody in South Carolina or Georgia that would like to come over and join us, by all means, please tell them about it as well. So let's see, with all that said, let's move to open source jobs. This is new. How many people here have heard me talk about open source jobs? A few people, so apologies to you for reiterating or repeating what we've done. This is in beta, but this is new, and I would love to get your participation. We have found that the majority of people that sponsor our events come to us because they are recruiting talent. This will come as news to no one here in person or listening or watching. Recruiting talent is a major challenge. In some cases, it's an obstacle to growth and expansion. It's a big deal. Finding quality people is a big deal. And what we do at a lot of our events is help to put people together, connect people with skills and experience entities, organizations that need them. And all we're doing here is just taking that, and we're trying to do that for the other 350 days of the year that we're not hosting events. So please check out Open Source Jobs. If you go there now, you'll see jobs posted by companies like Automatic, the company sort of behind WordPress, Amazon, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to post a job, please post a job on there if you're looking for help. And if you're in the market or if you're looking for a job, by all means, please go to the site and check out what's available. The site itself, this does bear stating. The site itself is different in that we really try to focus on not just the technology, but on the process as well. This gets back to what I said before. Folks, in open source, process matters. How many of you at your place of business now, if you're a startup or if you're a student, or if you're just getting into the industry and you're at a code school, or if you've been in the industry for 20 years, how many people here have a GitHub account? How many people pull code down? How many people contribute code? How many people here would consider yourself well-versed and knowledgeable in the area of open source licensing? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. So everyone watching, only a few hands went up. Yet open source licensing, kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal. How many people here work in an environment with a governance policy? A policy in place that kind of establishes parameters as to how open source can be used in your workplace, et cetera. How many people here have one of those in place? Okay, a few of you, good. So that means the majority of you do not. How many people here have never even heard of it? I know a lot more haven't heard of it, and you're not raising your hands. That's totally okay. I got to tell you, these are the things, this is what I mean by process. This is what I mean. In the open source space, in the modern IT technology environment where open source is used and utilized, these things are relevant, they're pertinent, and they're extremely important. So that is what this site highlights as well. The fact that open source job means not just the technology, a programming language or a platform or a database, et cetera, but it also means process knowledge and experience as well. So that's what's highlighted on this site. And trust me when I tell you that companies that are posting jobs, they understand that. If you talk to a hiring manager and you ask them during the interview process, do you ask just about technology, or do you ask questions like the ones that I just posed to you? Well, I will tell you, some hiring managers do not, and it's because they are not aware of what I just stated, so they don't ask about it. However, I can tell you that once you get the job or once you proceed and elevate, get to a different phase of the interview process, you will be asked about that. And if you can come back and you can respond or you can point out that you do have open source process experience, that you do have a basic understanding of licensing and governance policies and protocols, et cetera, you will jump off the page and your marketability will go up. We've talked to enough hiring managers to know that this is a fact. A lot of them don't ask about it. A lot of recruiters that you talk to, nothing about recruiters. I don't mean anything negative at all, but I doubt very many are asking about open source process knowledge and expertise. We're trying to highlight that because we feel like, in our experience, it's extremely important. So, open source jobs, open source score, all that process stuff I just said, all that stuff that I just referenced, we attempt to quantify this. How many people here have taken the survey? Cool, a few of you have. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. If you haven't, go to opensourcescore.com and take a very quick survey for us. What we're trying to do with this, it's straight out, it is an educational tool and an educational platform. We want you to take a survey. We want to quantify your knowledge when it comes to open source process, expertise, knowledge, et cetera, on things like I just identified. Understanding of licenses, attending open source events, contributing code, open sourcing an internal tool or technology. How many people here have actually open sourced something? Okay, a few of you. I can tell you that if there are best practices, there are right ways to do that. If you're working at a company now and you want to recruit better talent or more talent and you're having a tough time, a lot of companies, what they're doing is they're open sourcing cool things that you're already doing internally. Well, if someone goes to the boss or the person in charge or decisions are made collectively, and you say, I have a great idea in the context of talent recruitment and talent retention. We use this really great tool that helps us out wonderfully. It's very beneficial internally. Let's open source that to let everyone on the outside know what cool things they could work on if they came to work here. I can tell you that a long pause is going to follow because people are going to look at each other like, boy, that sure sounds good. Well, how do we do that? What do we do? Who's the expert? Can we talk to somebody that's done that before? Because I don't want to incur any liability. And what license would we attach to that? And don't we have to have a policy in place? And who's going to write the technical documentation, documenting the logic, et cetera? Who's going to do that? And if the response is, I don't know, I couldn't tell you, I don't know, that's not going to go very far. So we encourage you to learn more about it. But that's what Open Source Score is. Take the survey. We encourage you to do it and learn and access some of the educational resources, some of the educational links that are on that website. Try to do that for us. Here's this is the final thing that I'll say about SCORE. We've built in sort of a gamification aspect to this as well. We want you to know how you score in relation to everyone that's ever taken the survey. It's not a competitive thing. You don't have to share your score. It's not about that. It's just we found it beneficial. We thought it would deliver value to let you know how you stack up against everybody that's ever taken it. Where do I fall in relation? Oh, I see I got a 65 on a scale of 0 to 100. Is that good or bad? Or is that better than 80% of the people that have taken it? Or is that better than 20% of the people that have taken it and I really need to know more? That is built in as well, and you'll see that on an open source score. That's new. We're in beta. You'll find bugs. Trust me. We're making changes and updates, and we're seeking contributions. So if you take a look at it and you have some ideas as to how we could do it better, let us know for sure. But please be on the lookout for open source score. Again, that's new. Snapshot. I've been on the ground in the open source space for 13 years, and I can tell you common feedback that I get. Todd, how do I stay educated? There are so many sources of information. Who has time? I don't have time to, you can set up an RSS feed, you can set up a Google feed, et cetera. You can do all that. I got it. However, with Snapshot, with the newsletter that we'll begin sending out every month, as much as we review this stuff and stay on top of educational resources and white papers and articles and books and new videos and new talks, we are moving forward going to try to put those all in one place for you and kind of boil those down to what we feel like is pretty important to save you time. I hear this everywhere I go. Everyone is like, I'd love to do it. Who in the world has time? I don't have time to access and read 47 sites, 47 sources of information on a consistent basis. We're just going to try to save you some time with Snapshot. So that's actually coming soon as well. So be on the lookout for that. That'll be in your inbox if you want it. And if you would like to sign up for it, we would encourage you to do that as well. That's a lot of stuff. I apologize for taking so long. I appreciate your patience. In sum, look, folks, those of you that have known me and known our team for a long time, you know this. We exist to create opportunity. Everything that we've done for the last 8 years under the ATO banner, honestly, has been testing a hypothesis and a theory. Can we do better ourselves? Can we survive and pay bills while helping other people? A surprising number of people do not believe that. A surprising number of people think, look, go for it, help yourself first. You can't take care of anyone else until you help yourself first. To a degree, that's true. There's a lot of truth into that. But again, this has been an 8-year test of the belief that no, those two things can work together. So that's what we've always been about, and that's what we'll be about moving forward. So contact us. See me tonight before you leave. Anyone watching remotely, find me. You can find me at todd@allthingsopen.org. Send us an email, info@. I'd love to help you out and make connections for you. Okay? All right, so with all that said, that aspect's over. You got through it. I cannot thank you enough for your patience and for sitting through that. Here's what we're going to do next. We are going to interview 3 local organizations that are doing fantastic work. And the reason we asked them to come and sit for a 5-minute interview, we're actually taping this tonight. So we are going to make the files available to them. We're going to edit this down. We're going to edit me out as much as we can because I want you to have content that you can use to promote your organization, and I want people here to know how they can help you. One of the reasons that we give tables, exhibit tables, and ask you to come speak at events like this is that we want people here to know how they can help. I am a big believer that most people will help if they simply know how to help. That is not a blanket statement. That does not apply. I was not born yesterday. I know that some people they have blinders on. They're not being selfish. It's just maybe the way they're wired, et cetera. There are selfish people out there. But most people will help if they simply know how to help. So our goal is to let them know how they can help you because you're really doing great work. Okay? So Lisa, come on up. First group is Local Women Who Code. We've been working with Lisa, how many years? 4 years, right? So they have a table every year. You've seen them at our events. And so why don't we do this? Sit, yep. And again, I really, really appreciate you being here. That is fantastic.
I'm happy to. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here.
Very good. So who are you and what group are you with? And what do you do? What is your mission statement?
I'm Lisa Smith. I'm the founding director of our local chapter of Women Who Code. We're a global organization. We've been here in the Triangle about 4 years. We've got about the same number of members as All Things Open, about 1,200 members now. Our mission is to support women in their technology journey, working in tech. My goal, as an old, is to have more people stay in technology. Women tend to leave it around the 10-year mark, so I'm trying to stop that by providing all sorts of support services.
What do you need? I mean, you know, part of the reason that we initially reached out all those years ago was because, look, I've attended meetings. I know exactly how this works. You need things. You need maybe volunteers. Maybe you need sponsors. Mm-hmm. Maybe you need instructors if you're, you know, offering or featuring education. What do you need? How can people here help you? What can they do to help you out?
Well, we love all kinds of help. Particularly, we need location sponsors. Typically, those come with food. If you are a location sponsor, you get an in-kind donation of a posting on the Women Who Code Global Job Board. We're very low maintenance. We're typically meeting one night during the week for about 2 hours, about the same as this kind of meetup. Also, we meet once a month for brunch, which requires nothing except for you letting women in technology know that we're meeting once a month. We'd love for you to spread the word. We're always looking for women to come and speak about all kinds of topics. Next month is understanding a benefits package when you're accepting a job offer. We also do Git study nights. We've done API study nights, and those that kind of programming will continue. So if you want to pitch in and participate in those, we'd love to have you. But mostly, we could use places to meet. I like to move it all over the Triangle to annoy everyone equally, so that everyone has to drive at some point. But so that we can be more inclusive, so that not everybody has to drive every time.
Spoken like a true organizer. That's something I would have said.
Thank you.
You bet. How can people find you? Obviously, you're here in person tonight, so anyone in attendance, we have maybe 200 people here or so.
Absolutely. If you want to get directly to me, I'm Lisa at womenwhocode.com. We are on Meetup. That's how you join Women Who Code locally. You can go to womenwhocode.com and find us. Every chapter has a page on there that has all of our contact information. We're on Twitter, and you can, like I said, hit me up anytime, just at Lisa at Women Who Code, and we'd love to have you.
Sounds good. You all do wonderful work.
Thank you.
Really, really great work. Okay, so thank you very much. You bet. You bet. Next up, Allies in Tech. Women, yeah, right. My fault. One of many, right? So let's do the same. Yeah. She's getting mic'd up.
Yeah,
okay, thanks a lot. You bet. Okay, I'll move one over. You bet. We'll wait on her.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. We want both of you to participate, for sure. Yeah, if you're nice enough to be here. So the least we can do is wait.
We thank you for the invite. I'm on? Okay.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, it's good. How many people here have heard of this organization? A few. Awesome.
I see some people who've been to some of our meetups.
So a lot of people are hearing about this for the first time. Very, very good. Okay. I think, maybe this is, I don't know, maybe it was the case for me. Women Who Code, Lisa's group, been around maybe a little bit longer? Maybe?
We started Women in Tech Allies. Susan founded it about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And we've sort of gained traction in the past 2 years. About 1,300 allies on meetup.com.
I saw.
She saw a need. I'll let her come and speak to that a little bit. For there to be a space for there to be a conversation of growing diversity in tech, but that has voices from both sides of the table.
That's great.
Yeah.
So go ahead. So we've really kind of started the conversation about what you're about, what your mission statement is. But if you maybe could kind of pick up on that.
Sure. So I'm Susan Wands. I actually came into tech in a very non-traditional way. So I was in property management and construction for 12 years. And I went through a boot camp, and I made that jump. So at one point they said, you should probably do some meetups and go learn some more stuff. And I did that, and the meetups, it's odd to be the only woman in the room when there's 80 people in the room.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, maybe I'll go to, some more women-oriented meetups, and there were great organizations like Women Who Code and Chick Tech, and they had meetups, but I was like, there's room here because there needs to be a gap. There's a gap. If you want to interact with and build relationships with people who are already in tech, and the majority of the people in tech are men, then you need some way to bridge that conversation where you can introduce yourself to people who are interested in mentoring you, sponsoring you, championing you. When they decide, hey, we're looking for some new people, who do you know?
Yeah.
Well, they have a tendency to say who they know, and it's who they went to school with, and who was in their computer science program, and who they hung out with. And if that's only other guys in tech, then how are you ever going to get the introduction, right? So Women in Tech Allies was designed to fill a unique space. I think that the women in tech, most women in tech groups are focused purely on women, and it's a great place to kind of build those relationships and have those conversations that maybe you don't want to have in a mixed group. But Women in Tech Allies is this opportunity where people of all genders and all backgrounds can come together and promote greater diversity, greater inclusion into tech.
It makes perfect sense.
And I realized I didn't introduce myself. I'm Alani Perry. I co-lead Women in Tech Allies with Susan. I came along because her vision really resonated with me. A lot of my background had been in different employee resource groups within an organization to foster diversity, but bringing it to the community and making sure that other people saw the same opportunities I did by being a woman in tech was something that I'm glad that she planted the seed for, and we've been able to grow it.
Yeah.
Well, within a relatively short period of time, you're at maybe 1,300 members of your meetup, so it's obviously resonating with a number of people.
Yeah.
What do you need? How can we help you? I asked for a show of hands. Overwhelming majority of people here, I think, are hearing about you for the first time. So they're getting to know you. So hopefully tonight they'll come up and introduce themselves, or they'll follow up with you maybe online or via Meetup, or maybe via email after, or Twitter's, some form of social media. But just in person, what are hearing from you personally here tonight? How can people help you?
Well, you guys have been missing out. I'm sorry. We have some great events. We usually do at least one event a month, sometimes two. And they vary in topic from, very technical, like hands-on coding, to tech, project management or agile. We jump all over the place. We meet all over the place. We've had amazing sponsors that have offered us a space and food. So we meet sometimes in Durham, sometimes in Raleigh, sometimes in Morrisville. So we have tried to create the ability for people to have it close to them every once in a while. So that's been great. I think the biggest thing that we need is for people to show up and meet each other, because that's the goal, right? The goal is to create the relationships between people and tech, so that the next time your HR guy says, or HR lady says, who do you know, you have somebody different to say, okay? That you can sponsor or champion or mentor somebody else that's maybe outside of your normal circle.
And that networking is really critical because a lot of our allies are transitioning into tech from other industries. They've graduated from boot camp, they've graduated from college, and they're just trying to figure out how do you break into this industry. Things like just learning the nomenclature, understanding agile terms, things that you don't necessarily get before you get into the door. Being able to make those connections with someone and being able to kind of help push them forward is what we're about, and we would love to have more senior, as well as junior, but senior people coming into our organization and making those connections.
That's great. How can people find you?
Well, Alani is amazing, and she has created, she's done a lot to get us out there. We have womenintechallies.com, which has links to all of our social media. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter. Links to Meetup, so you can see all of our events. And
there's a contact button on the page, but you can also find us on meetup.com. And we just want you to reach out and connect with us.
So just to sum up, what you need, again, volunteers for sure. Space, you said you've had a number of companies and individuals kind of come forward, but you need more of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay,
That'd be
very, very good.
fantastic.
And we're also trying to operate more for our operational costs this year. So we've added a Patreon and a PayPal account to our website for those who are interested.
Well, I know a good number of people here in person that run companies or are in positions of decision-making authority, so to speak, and that can certainly help you out. So I would encourage them to consider that for sure. Yeah. Thank you all. You all really, really do a great job. Truly great job. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Maria, come on up. We'll do this. Maria and I have been friends for a long time, and I've known the work that Maria has done for years, not like years and years. You've been working in the community for a long time, and we really appreciate what you do. So I definitely wanted you to come in and talk a little bit about it. So for those in attendance here live, and then those of you, for everyone watching, who are you? What's the group, and what's the mission?
So my name is Maria Lamardo. I'm a front-end engineer at Pendo, and my group is called Devs at RTP. And our mission statement is just to inspire and encourage people to get into the tech field. And I hope that this community provides a really good support system for you to ask all the questions you want, regardless of skill level, and you're always, always welcome.
Yeah, and you're also an accessibility specialist as well.
Yeah. I love web accessibility.
You've actually spoken at our meetup about accessibility as well.
Yeah, that's right.
And at our conferences. We think it's a pretty important topic.
Right. Yeah, so my background, I'm a board certified assistant behavior analyst. So before I switched into tech, I spent 8 years providing behavioral therapy for people with developmental disabilities. And when I switched into tech, web accessibility was just my passion. Yeah.
What can you use? How can people here help you out?
Well, so we're always looking for sponsors, but most of all, I would say we're looking for helpers. We have a lot of big events coming up. We're specifically looking for people who are interested in becoming instructors. Martin Pusta and I are launching a new chapter for Devs at RTP Teens, and it's going to be targeted towards inspiring the youth to get into the tech field at a much earlier age than I did. And I think that's really going to help them get ahead of the curve and learn a lot.
You know, Denise Cooper, our MC for our Inclusion Diversity event, she begins and ends with the same statement, that if you, whatever you do, try to introduce your child, give them a role model, get them into technology, whether it's gadgets or whether it's software or whether it's game, whatever it is, get them in, expose them to it as early as you possibly can, because it helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it really, really helps, yeah. Where can people find you?
So we have a website, devsrtp.com. You could also find us on Meetup. We do have a really active Slack group, so please join us. You can find the invitation link in the website. And we do a lot of social events, as well as we do meetups once a month. And then we also do study sessions once a week, every Monday. If you're interested, we do them near the RTP area. So you can also find that information on our website and on our Slack channel.
I love the study session idea. I'm sure a lot of people find a lot of value in that.
Yeah.
That's really great. Okay. Well, thank you again. We've been friends for a long time, so I feel like I'm sitting here with an old friend, which I am. But anyway, thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so everyone, with that, we'll end this segment now. So please find these people that are heading up these organizations, representing these organizations before you leave tonight. Catch them, maybe, I hope everyone's sticking around, but if not, feel free to step out, chase them down, whatever it takes. Follow up with them after the event as well, and try to help them out. Try to do what you can to help them out, whether it be volunteer or serving as an instructor. Or
don't tackle me.
Whatever it is. She asked not to be tackled, please, so please make a mental note of that. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So with that, I'm going to clear the stage. We're going to reset the stage. I think Andy's just going to speak, stand and speak, no stool needed. So we're going to do that for Andy. Folks, I asked before, how many people here have read Pragmatic Programmer, own a copy, have been influenced by the book? Large number of you said yes. A number of you said no. So I think this is a good opportunity for those that have been influenced and are familiar to kind of maybe get to the backstory, maybe have some of the gaps filled in, hear from Andy directly. And then also for those of you not familiar, you'll understand why we feel like it's the most influential book maybe in the history of technology when it comes to programmers. And by the way, I would say this if Andy weren't standing right here. I would 100% say that. And that's merely based on feedback from our community over a lot of years. So Andy, you did a great job with the book. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Thanks for agreeing to sign books and speak to people afterwards. And for those of you, by all means, I want you to stick around. We're going to do about 45 minutes of talk and then Q&A, and then we'll wrap things up, and then we'll go right outside. We'll have books sitting out. 50 of them will be available, hardcover. So they're very, very nice, but they'll be available on a first-come, first-served basis as well. Andy, thank you very, very much, my friend.
Thanks.
You bet.
He started it, but that's a hot mic. He started it, but I'm going to say thanks for coming out. I took one look at the temperature, was going to let my dog out, and the dog's like, I'm waiting until about March. We're not doing this. So yeah, I wouldn't have come tonight if I didn't, sort of have to. So thanks. My name is Andy Hunt. I have been programming commercially for money for 38 years. God, I shouldn't say that anymore. That sounds kind of horrible. And one of these days, I'm going to figure out how it actually works and how to do it right. I'm still working on that. So back in the mid-'90s, towards the end of the '90s, Dave Thomas and I wrote the Pragmatic Programmer book, which I'll tell you about in a second. And then in the early 2000s, like 2001, I guess it was, 2000, we wrote the Pickaxe, the Ruby programming book, which sort of introduced Ruby to the rest of the world. And then this little thing happened where I was one of the authors of the Agile Manifesto, trying to get people to think beyond the sort of rigid, linear, bureaucratic, plan-based approaches and do something more effective. A little while after that, Dave and I founded the Pragmatic Bookshelf Publishing Company, which is my quote-unquote day job these days. I run the publishing company, which is an interesting experience to sort of be at the, whatever metaphor you want to use, to be at the crossroads, to have your finger on the pulse of what people are excited about, what people are interested in, what people think are important enough to devote 9 to 12 months of their life writing a book about. That's some serious commitment. And you really only want to undertake something like that if you're really, really passionate about the subject matter. So that's an interesting data point to kind of see what's going on in the world. And there's a lot going on in the world, especially these days, as they say. So as Dave and I set out to do a 20th anniversary edition of the Pragmatic Programmer book, it was a bit of a time capsule to go back and see, well, what was the development world like back in the late 90s versus today? And an awful lot has changed, right? So think back to those days, say 98, 97, 98 or so. Dinosaurs roamed the earth, right, grazing under the window peacefully. And the dinosaurs were named Lycos, Alta Vista, right? Those were the search engine giants. Everyone was really worried about this huge monopoly called AOL that was, it was horrible. They carpet bombed you with CDs. It was devastating. And, it's a different, Google what? Google was not a verb. That wasn't a thing. It was a very different world, but a lot of things, as we notice going through the book, a lot of things haven't changed. Anything to deal with us as people, as individuals, as programmers, developers, we haven't changed in tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. The tech has changed, but it always does. So back in the 90s, what happened was we did not set out to write a book at all, let alone what did Todd call it, the most influential book? I know he's just being kind, but he's not wrong. And the funny thing is, that was really somewhat beginner's luck. I mean, we didn't sit down and go, we're going to write the most influential book of a generation. No. We were writing a white paper for our clients at the time. Because it seemed what would happen is you'd go into a new assignment, you'd meet with the client, and my God, the fact that they ever got anything out the door was nothing short of a miracle, right? Just disaster upon disaster. And they're like, yeah, well, we're trying. Okay. So that's fine, the first 1 or 2 or 3 or 5, and then you realize everyone you meet, they're doing the same things wrong. It's like, okay, well, we can help with this. How about think about it this way? Don't do it that way. Do it this way. Think about this context. So we thought it might save some time to write down these little observations, these little stories that we had, these little anecdotes, and just write it up as a white paper. We'd ship it on ahead to our clients before we got there, just to save some time. And unlike every software project ever, that project grew in scope beyond what we had sort of thought. And we were like, this could be a book. We've got enough stuff here. Maybe this is a book. And someone suggested, and I've honestly forgotten in the mists of time now who it was, but somebody suggested that, well, find a publisher. Go to your bookcase, see who has the books that you most respect and enjoy, and contact them. Okay. So we wrote Addison Wesley at the time because they had, the Gang of Four Patterns book and all the classics, the KNRC, all this stuff. And so we wrote, and they said, yeah, sounds good, sign here. Okay, dude, we know nothing about writing. We've never written a book before. I have no idea what we're doing. But we figured it out. The very first drafts of the book were written in T-ROF. Boy, there's some crickets back there. We ran up the limitations of that and then moved it into LaTeX, spelled latex, and did it that way. And so through the course of this, right, being programmers with a touch of not invented here syndrome, just a wee bit, most books were published then, and still today, they go through the sort of workflow where, as an author, you write the manuscript in something like, well, what now would be Microsoft Word, or even back then, maybe a FrameMaker or Quark or something, but not with any kind of formatting or anything. You just sort of write the text, then you give it to the publisher, and they make all the figures, and they retype the code listings that you printed out for them, and they send it off somewhere and type it in, and typeset it and print it. And we're looking at this going, that's stupid. Why would you do that? We've got this nifty thing. You can include files in the thing that you're building. So we built this whole little system that would produce a beautiful book. We could run the code examples live on the disk with unit tests and all the rest of that, and just suck the code right into the book with no transcription errors. So we went through and did all that, and they're like, okay, well, we'll typeset it for you. It's like, yeah, we're done. We're all set. We're good. We got that. Okay, fine. So they said, okay, well, indexing. The publisher said, we'll do the indexing for you. Okay, awesome. So they put us in touch with a professional indexer. Top men, I'll tell you. And the indexer's first question to us, I kid you not, what words do all y'all want indexed? So we did the indexing. And a few other things along the way. And by the end of the process, and it was a handsome-looking book. It sold well to our surprise. It cracked the top 10 on Amazon.com, not of programmer books, the top 10 of Amazon.com. And it would have been 2 positions higher, but there were 2 Harry Potter books on the list at the same time, which I think was extraordinarily unfair. Such is life. So we were as surprised as anyone. And some of that, I think, at the time was really just an accident of history. It was just the right thing at the right time, and it really struck a nerve. And people were like, oh, this is a different level of advice than whatever they taught in university and college, different than I got from these other professional books. And that was not without controversy. So some of the very early reviewers of the first draft, one gentleman in particular, who's still around, It's about 150, but he's still around, was incensed that we wrote such a fluffy, unscientific, unsubstantiated pile of drivel, and how dare we besmirch the profession by daring to suggest these things. All right, okay, whatever. Okay, dude, have a nice life. So it wasn't, it was not a slam dunk by any means. We were taking quite a risk because this wasn't the sort of typical boring, dry, you've read those textbooks, right? The ones where you're halfway through reading and you just want to kind of gnaw your arm off to get out of it and not finish it. We had jokes. There were some funny bits in there. We made fun of UML diagrams. We had some stick figures with mommy and me for use cases. We poked fun at things that deserved it. And it was a good time. And, mercifully, it was well received, and it opened up a lot of people's eyes to things that had been done but hadn't been described well. So almost this kind of like intellectual dark matter that kind of permeates between us. And if you've worked with someone, alongside someone in some kind of a mentorship capacity, an apprenticeship kind of deal, you learn these little tricks of the trade, these ways of doing things, these approaches, but they're not taught in undergrad courses to this day. They're not usually taught in any formal job training. It's just that stuff that's out there. So Dave and I tried very hard to put names to some of these things, and thus the DRY principle came about. We didn't invent that per se. I mean, it was an idea. It was a thing that was out there, but it didn't have a name. It wasn't qualified. It wasn't quantified in any way. So we made up a definition and gave it a name, and now it is part of the vocabulary. It's, we hear people mentioning it in conference talks, in TED Talks, in books, in courses, and half the time they don't even know where it came from. It's like, okay, well, that was us. That was it. My son just graduated this last semester from NC State, just down the road, in computer science. And he called me up all excited one afternoon because in their some freshman class, there I was up on the screen. Right? That's got to be kind of cool. It's like, hey, I know that guy. So yeah, that I guess that counts as wow. Okay, that got you some virality. So where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so all these little bits and pieces we sort of put names to. The idea that if you explain your code to somebody, they just sit there and nod, and as you're describing it, you're like, oh crap, I realized what I did. Rubber ducking. You describe it to the duck. That came from the book. And on and on and on. The ideas of tracer bullets and, well, I mean, it's all in the book. If you've read it, you've seen them all. And if not, you're going to read it soon because you're going to get a copy tonight. So then you'll know. And so 20 years came by, and it's like, all right, what do we need to change? What do we need to update given that this is not the world of the late 90s with dial-up modems and AOL and Lycos and all the rest of these things. This is a very different world. So we had to add new material. We kind of called out the need for DevOps back then. Of course, it wasn't called that. So we had to revise some of that. We strongly advised you had to have a build machine, except back then it was a PC sitting in the corner. Now it's a pipeline in the cloud. Same idea, different implementation, that's fine. But that little change, even something as simple as that opens up a whole new world of possibilities of other things you can do that are interesting. And so there was a fair bit of that, okay, well, we have matured as an industry. Doesn't feel it a lot of the times, but we have gained some ground. We have learned how to do some things better. I remember back in probably the early aughts, I was in a large conference room, maybe 1,000 people or so, and we asked for a show of hands of who did not use version control of any sort. And a bunch of folks in the back, granted they were in the back, kind of sheepishly raised their hands. I did have someone tell me once, with a straight face, I said, what are you all using for version control? They said, Microsoft Outlook. I'm sorry, I said version control. Yeah, we use Outlook. How? Oh, at the end of the day, we all mail each other all the source code, so there's a copy on the server. I cannot make this stuff up. It's just, that's right up there with my current favorite, where, again, I'm not making this up. I had someone tell me to my face, of course our organization is agile. We use Jira. Wow. So we have a ways to go still, clearly. But we have made some progress. We had to add material to the book for things that weren't really a consideration back in the day. Back at some wonderful point in time, you could vi main.c and run a.out, and everything was just right there, and it was beautiful. And now you can't do that, right? Hello World and React brings in, what is it, 1,000, 10,000 NPM modules? I'm sorry, remote viruses from all over the web. Yeah, that's going to come back to bite us. Well, and you remember what? LeftPad, right? You remember the LeftPad disaster about, what was that, 2 years ago-ish? Where the maintainer pulled a simple 5-line module and half the web broke because everyone was building with live dependencies, and suddenly this thing in the repo wasn't there anymore, and the whole thing croaked. This is why we can't have nice things. So we had to, that's a long way of saying, we had to add a little chapter on just thinking about basic security, because that really wasn't a consideration back in the day, and now that has to be almost one of the first considerations. Security, privacy, how can this be weaponized? Could this thing you're writing be used against people? Could it be used against you? That wasn't a concern not that long ago, and now that's maybe the chief concern. What are we doing with this data, this personally identifiable information? There's laws about that. If GDPR hasn't bit you yet, California just did. And they won't be the last, right? That's just the tip of the iceberg. So, those kinds of societal impacts are moving in. And as Todd said in the beginning, software is everywhere. It's not like software is going to eat the world. That ship sailed. It's done. There's a wonderful Twitter account that this is being taped and shown, so I can't say the actual name of the account because it contains profanity. But it talks about the Internet of Things, and points out these hilarious bits where you can't go. This guy had to put a T-shirt over his lamp because he couldn't turn the lamp off because the lamp's server was down. And these kinds of things. The oven that spontaneously turned itself on and burned the house down, and all this great stuff. And we're right in there. That's us. We are right in there with that. So, what may have just been a core dump or a crash or a blue screen of death, that starts getting a lot more of the death part. And that's on us. We have to be a little bit more conscious about these things. So we tried to pack all these changes to the world, all these new things that are happening today, but still keep the flavor of the original Pragmatic Programmer book, still keep as many of the jokes as we could get away with, and some of them we couldn't. Some of them were kind of stupid the first time around, to be honest, so we ditched those. The interesting thing was, when Dave and I first wrote the book, it took a little over maybe 2 man-years of effort. We stopped taking clients, and we focused exclusively on writing for over a solid year. It was probably like 14 months. And we would literally argue over exact words. So first of all, Dave's from England. He's British, so he talks funny. And what's worse is he lives in Texas, so y'all really talk funny with a British accent. So there were some very hilarious misunderstandings where he would use the British form of an expression, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? That just did not translate. But we were very careful and very precise where we could be to try to get the right idea across. because it's so easy to just mistakenly use the wrong word and somebody misunderstands. Especially if you're talking about code, you talk about some variable that's called X. No, it's named X. Use the word called, now you're executing it, and people start getting it right. So these very simple things, but suddenly it can get quite confusing if you're sloppy about it. So we were very, very careful and spent an inordinate amount of time really crafting and distilling and honing the book, trying to get it to what we thought at the time were sort of the most important things that weren't being discussed, that weren't out in the open, that weren't widely known. And apparently that worked, and that paid off. So this time came around to redo it for the 20th anniversary. We're like, oh boy, we're going to have wildly different ideas about what needs to change. I mean, oh, how are we going to do this? So we each went off and separately made a list of, all right, here are the biggest things that I think have changed in the industry. Here are the things I think we need to address. Here's the tips I think we need to ditch because they're not relevant anymore, or we've changed our position on it, or whatever it might be. And Dave made the same list for himself. And then we went and checked them against each other, and 80% of the list was identical, in the same order even. It's like, get that camera on me or something? And I took that as a really good sign, because that meant that despite our differences of opinions and different experiences, that was pretty common. We recognized, all right, these are the important things. So that's what we focused on. And the results, it sounds self-serving, because it is, but it really is a fun read. I enjoyed going back, even proofreading it for the bazillionth time. You can never proofread it enough, right? You can look at something 100 times in a row, and as soon as the ink hits paper, you find the two thes in the row, or whatever it might be. But we did that. We started working on that last spring. We delivered it to the printer July 1st, I think it was. And funny thing, our publishing company, Pragmatic Bookshelf, on the web at pragprog.com, our authors, when they finish writing, it takes 8 to 10 weeks of copy edit and layout and indexing and them proofing it and these sorts of processes, and then bang, it's finished and it's ready for production. And the print takes days. We have it up in ebook that same day. So it's a moderately fast process. My wife wrote a textbook on nursing informatics. When she delivered the manuscript to Springer, it was 12 months before they had it in print. When we delivered our manuscript in July, we got hardcovers in September, end of September, early October. So, we have claimed that we have an agile publishing company, and if you actually look at stats like that, you actually look at numbers, we really do. We move stuff right along, we get it out, it's smooth, it's streamlined. Other older, more established companies, not so much. They've got a lot more process in place, a lot more bureaucracy, different market forces maybe, different considerations. But, with something like a tech book, right, you can't let it sit around for a year, right? The world has moved by then. You're on Rails 8 by now, or whatever it might be. So that's kind of the short history of the book and how it came about and what brings me here tonight. I think we've got time for a couple of questions. Anything at all? Not geography. But who's got the first question? Of course, you have the first question.
Of course I have the first question. What is the state of grows?
An interesting, okay, so he asks, what is the state of grows? Grows, or the grows method, was this initiative I'd started a couple years ago with my good friend Jared Richardson. And the idea was, back in 2008, I wrote a book called Pragmatic Thinking and Learning. And that looked at sort of cognitive and neuroscience ideas of what can we do to learn better? Because there were a bunch of books out there like, mind hacks and these sorts of ideas that I was all excited when they came out. It's like, oh, I can't wait to dig into this book and see what it says. And they were garbage. They were all, here's how to memorize a list of 100 numbers. I don't need to memorize a list of 100 numbers, thank you very much. No, here's a brand new language, here's Rust, here's Elm, here's whatever. I need to learn this thing in like 2 days. Tell me how to do that. Now I'm interested. But that wasn't there. So I spent a couple of years doing some research and writing and found all these really interesting things about our own cognitive biases, how we learn, how our cognitive biases affect things like agile adoption, why that doesn't work, why we are desperate for estimates even when we know they're crap, all these sorts of things. I thought, you know, that and institutionalizing learning, you know, the sort of corporate L&D departments are usually garbage too, right? They send you off to the sheep dip training once a year and you don't really get much out of it. We could do so much better. So I wanted to marry the ideas of true Agile, not we use Jira and half of Scrum badly, but actual Agile ideas and these sort of learning and you know, cognitive concepts and make a new methodology out of that. And Jared and I had started and had gotten a ways down that road when he passed away suddenly in 2016. And that kind of just, that was the end of that. I stopped working on it for a while because it was just, you know, that was just too hard. Until this last year, till end of 2018, start of 2019, two of Jared's other friends got together with me, and we've brought it back as a functioning thing again. And we've been doing workshops helping to teach executives the importance of the actual Agile ideas. You know, exposing them to things like Cynefin diagrams and Wardley maps and, you know, those sorts of things, the actual ways of looking at systems thinking instead of linear thinking and all the linear traps that we tend to fall into and those sorts of issues. So we've been doing that, you know, sort of on the quiet, on the side. We're working on a book on it that'll be out someday. I'll make no promises there. But we are giving workshops on that, and they've been going remarkably well. I've been very heartened by that. So it's one of those things where you can describe something to somebody, and they can read about it, and yeah, that's all fine. But if you do a particular exercise with them where they actually get to experience it, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I get it now. So I've literally had executives who are like, oh yes, we're iterative and incremental, and they didn't know what that. They could have said we were, you know, bologna and cheese. They had no idea what that meant. And then we lead them through this exercise, and they're like, oh, that's what y'all meant. I got it now. So there is hope on the horizon. It's just need more hours in the day. But thanks for asking. Who's got the next question? Ma'am.
These days we have just quite a few more choices about what we can use in our software projects. And so I'm wondering whether you have any, like, a couple principles that you might use to evaluate what you bring into a project that you're looking to start.
That's a tough question. And I think my answer to that will have changed over the years. So the question was, you know, how do you evaluate or justify what tech you bring into a project? And there's a lot of factors that play into that. Certainly, we want to use the shiny because it's fun, and you know we want to do that. But it depends on the use case. You know, in a lot of cases, especially if it's a smaller mom and pop shop or a smaller organization, you want old, boring tech. You want something that you can plop there and it will just work, and nobody has to keep up with the latest, you know, third decimal point release to make the bloody thing work, and you know that's fine. There's other instances where you need to be literally on the bleeding edge because you have to get that last ounce of performance or that, you know, whatever it might be. So that's the kind of thing where I think you need to look at kind of a snapshot of, okay, what's the context now? You know, what does the user, what does the customer actually need? What's the best tool for the job that'll do that now? But then look at that over time. Are they going to have to maintain this? How hard is it going to be to get talent that knows that technology? How hard is it going to be to maintain that? How hard is it going to be to deploy that? You know, whether it's, you know, on containers now or this or that, or, you know, how is this going to evolve over time? And is this the best choice that's going to match that flow? That's the real question. Because I think one of the traps we fall into a lot is if we even bother to look at all these influences and all the context, we take a snapshot of right now. And that's great. What about a month from now? What about next year? What about 5 years from now? What's going to happen with that? If I had a nickel for every time a developer decided to go slog some log entries off to a database file and never clean them out, and then 5, 10 years later, some old piece of code is there just horking over, what is this nut, right? So, little things like that, it's kind of an extreme example, but we do things like that without considering what happens to this in 10 years, 20 years, right? Because I think we subconsciously think, oh, this isn't going to be running still by then. That'll be replaced long by then. Not always. I literally have some bash shell scripts that are in excess of 30 years old that still run. I still use, somebody's still using them. Hey, thanks for joining us. So yeah, you gotta, I would say, look at the axis of time in addition to everything else for fitness and capability. Next question.
Hey, I'm going to steal a question here. You might have stated this already, I might have just missed it. What was the biggest change from 20 years ago to now that you both identified? And then looking ahead 20 years, what do you think might be the bigger change? Where do you see things kind of going? If you wrote a 40th anniversary edition.
Boy, Todd goes right to the hard one. Okay, so for the 40th anniversary edition, I said you're just going to plug the fiber optic jack right into the side and have the AI write it for me. Yeah, I would actually have to go back and see what we thought the biggest change was. I think it was probably a kind of a confluence of several things, of items that we had to fight really hard for back in the day to get adopted, like unit testing, right? That was a hard sell. People did not want to do it. Some people still don't, but at least they know what you're talking about now. At least they feel guilty about not doing it. So that's progress. That's progress. But a lot of that stuff has become far more accepted. You said pair programming before, and they're like, "Commie, we're not doing that." They'd have some kind of reaction. And now, they've got mob programming, which is, even that, but even greater. And they're reporting good success with that. So, okay, yeah, we've made some progress there. The whole idea of having your build pipeline and your repo hosted in the cloud, that's pretty brilliant and empowering. Not having to maintain that server over in the corner. And I don't know if this is in one of the editions of the book, or I've just told it forever, but there was this developer I knew, Lucky Pierre. That was really his name. He decided that this particular search algorithm wasn't running fast enough on this piece of hardware. This was running OS 2 back in the day. So he went in and rewrote the process scheduler in the kernel on OS 2 to tweak it. Okay, bold move, but all right, we'll give it to, and it worked great. And they got the performance increase that they wanted, and that was wonderful. Tiny problem. It never worked anywhere else in the world other than his machine, literally. So I'm thinking this was some kind of like cosmic ray quantum effect kind of something, because they got the same gear from the same manufacturer, loaded the same software stack on it, faced it in the same direction, what? Nothing. It was the most extreme case of works on my machine, and didn't. And that is, you laugh, right? But that's Docker, right? Docker is institutionalizing, it works on my machine, ship the my machine. So those were probably the biggest changes. The biggest changes going forward, my crystal ball's in the shop, but it is a hard one, because a lot of folks are like, oh, AI. No, first of all, it's not AI. Okay. If you're talking to VC, venture capitalists, it's AI. If you're trying to recruit people for the team, recruiting talent, right, it's machine learning. You're sitting there doing it, it's linear regression. That's all it is. anyone who's worried, and this is, this is something that gets some ink. It says, oh, AI is going to take our jobs and steal our future. You ever use the self-checkout at the grocery store? I don't think, we don't have much to worry about yet. I think we're okay there. So I don't think, if we get some assists via machine learning and related technologies, something that will help us as we're coding, great, love it. It's like autocomplete on steroids. Okay, dynamite. It's not going to write code for us. I would like to see us continue to sort of move up in the world and deal less with lower and lower level concerns. One of the first computers I ever bought, the salesman at the store cracked open the floppy drive, the 8-inch floppy drive, and checked it out on an oscilloscope before sending it home with me to make sure the heads were aligned and everything. That was the tech at the day. Things have changed a little bit. We've moved up levels of abstraction from that, right, a little bit. And we've got kind of the precarious stack now because, right, the 10,000 NPM modules and all the rest of that. And that's kind of curious. I'm not sure how that's going to play out because that seems to me that that's running up against the security and verifiability kind of concerns. And they're really at loggerheads there because now we expect this level of support that, oh, there's a gem for that. There's a module for that. I can just grab this set of features and shove it into my project without knowing what it really is. Usually in sci-fi movies, that doesn't work out real well. So we'll see. It'll be interesting, that's for sure. Got time for one more? Civic hacking, like hacking government. Or building apps. Yeah, hacking in the good sense, as in. I think somebody needs to build a government that works. That'd be a really nice nice change of pace. Thank you. I'm here all week. Don't forget to tip your waitress. Yeah. I would like to. I mean. And this is one of the other themes that was not in the original edition that we added in this edition was to try to convey some sense of our responsibility in this mess because the world does run on our software. And when we forget to check some error condition or we just program that happy path and hey, ship it, we're agile, there's serious repercussions. The fact that Twitter can be used to take down governments. That was really cool when it was somebody else's, right? But yeah, there's a lot of responsibility for that. All these articles you read about the insecurity of the voting machines, I mean, that's just appalling. They've got these closed source things with wide open bugs, known vulnerabilities, sitting there without passwords on the open internet. That strikes me as a remarkably poor idea. And we can do better. And no, it doesn't take blockchain, but that's another buzzword compliant. All right, one more. I can't help it. They've run out.
I've got one. For anyone who's starting out in tech, in 2020, what would be your one biggest piece of advice to give them?
Don't do it. One of the interviewees earlier said that there was a problem with women dropping out of tech at the 10-year mark. It's like, yeah, because they realized what they'd gotten into and bolted. The biggest thing, well, it depends on what axis. So I think the most important skill you need to develop is being able to unlearn quickly. Now, most people say, well, you need to be able to learn quickly. Yes, certainly, of course. But in order to do that, you've got to be able to unlearn quickly. So, and they even told me this when I was in college back, and we had, you know, stone tablets and stuff like that. They said, you know, really whatever technology we teach you in college, you will not use out in the workplace. It'll be dead by then. It'll be onto something else. And yes, indeed. So I spent 2 years programming on Modula 2. What? Who? Yeah, never heard of it. Yeah. That happens. So, you know, there are folks who are like, oh, I've gone to a coding boot camp and I've learned this, you know, part of this one language. I'm all set. I'm done. Not even close, right? The trick, the knack, is to learn something, learn the next thing. Learn something very different from that. So say you've learned Python or Ruby as a beginning programming language. Good start. Awesome. Good place to go. Then learn a functional programming language. Take a look at something really wacky like Prolog or SQL. Everyone needs to know SQL at some point, right? You know, look at all these different aspects of a thing, and you start to understand kind of the more fundamental basics of like information theory. So then when someone comes up and tries to explain a monad to you, it's like, yeah, okay, it's one of these kind of things, fine. Or whatever it might be. But the key is you can't hang on to the thing you learned first or the first several things that you learned. You know, when C++ came out back in the day, and it's like, hey, it's object-oriented, if you squint, people still wrote C code in C++. It was procedural, it was linear. And the same thing happens today. It's like, okay, I've learned Ruby, I got real objects, this is great, now I'm going to program Elixir. And they're not writing it in functional style, they're writing it in object style and, you know, trying to shoehorn it in. Because it's very difficult to throw out the mental models that you've developed, the learnings that you've had. This is the way you do it. And now you're telling me I've got to do it completely differently. Okay, that's valuable to learn. And then do it completely differently again with some other paradigm, some other style. And you just keep doing that. Then you start to get that appreciation of all the little bits that no one can teach you, that intellectual dark matter that's kind of binding us all together. It's like, oh, I know what Andy was talking about now. So that's what I would suggest. Great question. Thanks for asking it. Well, thank you all for having me here tonight.